Right there, that's perfect. Now you're on the move. Thank you.
Jeremy, right here.
Everybody, here we go. In the middle.
Jeremy up top. Thank you. Jeremy up top. If you want to pull.
Great.
Amy, one more up.
Should we just get the cast? Cast?
Live here. That was nice.
We love movies.
love
We
the
live
city.
and breathe movies.
Thank you, Toronto Film Festival. It is a wonderful, wonderful place to come as a filmmaker.
I love the movie. If you want to talk about it after, I'll be walking around, probably around Chinatown or whatever.
Enjoy the film, guys, and thank you again, and thank you for having us. It's so great to be in my home country of Canada. Thank you, thank you.
Our moderator for today is Eric Kohanek, and it's now my pleasure to welcome the producers and members of the cast for the film Arrival.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the press conference for Arrival. Arrival is a TIFF gala presentation. It will have its Canadian premiere tonight at 9:30 at Roy Thompson Hall. With us today, we have the producers and co-stars of the film. Unfortunately, director Denis Villeneuve couldn't be here today, but we've got a good crew up here anyway. Beside me, we have Aaron Ryder, one of the producers of the film. Next to Aaron, we have Jeremy Renner, who co-stars in the film as theoretical physicist Ian Donnelly. Next to Jeremy, we have Amy Adams, who takes on the lead role of Dr. Louise Banks, the linguist, who forms a communications link with the aliens that cause panic throughout the world in this movie. Next to Amy, we have two more producers. We have Dan Levine and David Lindy. If you have any questions, please put up your hands, and we'll get a mic to you. We've got a bunch already, so I'll start it off. I'll just welcome you all and put out a couple of questions here first. Maybe, Dan, you could talk to me about Denis Villeneuve and working with him. What was it that caused you to recruit him to do the film?
Well, it was a real miracle of fate, this movie coming together, because when we met with Denis, it was off of Ensemble Days, and he was about to go off and shoot Prisoners, and at the same time, we had just found this incredible short story, Story of Your Life, and we're hunting down Ted Chiang, who's mysterious and reclusive, and Denis told us that he was dreaming of doing sci-fi, and we gave him the short story and said, look, we don't have the rights, check this out. And while he was reading it, we found Ted, and Ted was reluctant to give the rights and said to us, well, how can you guarantee it's going to be a great film? And we said, we can't. But here's a film of a director who we have no idea if he'll ever want to do this, and we sent him on Sundays. And he came back to me and said, I would do it with that director. And then at the same time, Denis called and said, I love this. I don't know how to do this. I'm running off to do Prisoners. And we just said, you know what, do your film, and when you're done, we're going to give you a script. And that's why we're all sitting here. But the truth is, Denis is such a master of suspense and tension, but what makes him so miraculous is the depth and soul he finds in the characters. And honestly, he's the only director I know that he can put you on the edge of your seat with tears pouring down your face.
Well, maybe, Aaron, you can talk a bit about, this film is based on a short story, Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, of course. Can you talk about the challenges of bringing a short story like that to the screen and sort of visualizing everything that's in there?
Sure. I mean, a lot of that hard work was done by Dan Levine and Dan Cohen at 21 Laps and just developing this. They turned a short story, and Eric Heiser, the screenplay writer, had a very difficult job kind of taking a very, very intellectual and slightly dense story and turning it into a movie. Not always an easy thing to translate. And there's some differences, but the spirit of the story is all still there. And it's like this, it's an emotional science fiction film. It's something we hadn't seen before, and I think that's what everybody, when they initially read it, and they served that, you know, whether it be Eric Kaiser, whether it be Denis, and that's the thing, and really the reason that we're here.
Okay. Amy and Jeremy, how did you both come to the project?
They sent me a script. No, but I mean, it sounds so simple, but I was at a point where I wasn't really reading scripts, and my wonderful team said, no, you're reading this script. And I read the script, and I fell in love with the character. And then I got to the end of it, I had to go back and reread it again, but really the emotional core of this is what drew me to it. And then meeting with Denis and knowing that he had the same reaction, and sort of through the sci-fi elements, the political elements, it really is this woman's story, and it's a story that she's telling to her daughter. And that's a beautiful thing to me.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, all the parts were I think, in place with Amy on board at that time. Denis, and reading the script was one of the best things I've read in a very long time. And I just thought it was, I remember reading it. I don't remember thinking, it was such an insular story that, you know, I ultimately just cared about Amy and her character, and Denis and the script, and how I could serve it. And that's I was just a little pawn in the game to try to serve this big picture.
All right. We have a question down here in the front.
Hello, Ernesto Guerra del Mercurio, Chile. A question for Amy Adams. Hi. I just want to know if you, a little bit, if you could develop the idea about your character, and because in those days it's difficult to find, you know, a female strong character, especially in a sci-fi movie. So how was working with Denis Villeneuve, the director, in those terms, and how was for you doing this movie since from this point of view? Thank you.
You know, anytime you get a character that is as well developed and emotionally vulnerable and yet intellectual with the strength of character, that's a real gift as an actress, and it's a gift because it shows, it's a reflection of what women are to me. They're not one thing. They're not purely intellectual. They're not purely vulnerable. We're fully, you know, fleshed out human beings, and to see that reflected so beautifully was a pleasure. And playing it was awesome. I mean, Denis was a joy to work with. I always say it's such a bummer he's not here, because he is so much fun, and he has so much passion and so much love for what he does, and you feel it every day when you arrive on set. So I always felt so supported. He's the best. He really, if you do a good job, he's like, I deeply love what you have done. And it's a beautiful thing that he does. That's my bad Denis impersonation. I do it all the time.
It's pretty good, actually.
Ryan Gosling does a good one, just so you know, because he's working with him now, so.
And we just wanted to say that Denis couldn't be here because he's shooting Blade Runner in Budapest. He sends his best. He wishes he could be here. He loves this festival.
Yeah.
All right, we have another question down here in the front.
Hi, this is Rui from Portugal, the Noticias. This is a question for Amy. I'm wondering if there was a moment that you knew that you found out the truth about the character. Was there any specific moment? What was while you were reading the script? And also, I would like to ask you, this is such a great year for you, because I just saw also the Tom Ford movie. You're amazing. So now, do you have to choose between which one I'm going to campaign for the award seasons, and so?
We make that choice for her.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The first part of the question was, this is what it's like doing two films. The moment I realized, when I read the script, I come to scripts very open, and so I was moved in the first 10 minutes, and I thought, I already love this woman, and I love kind of what she's bringing to it, and I read the whole script, and it wasn't until I got to the end, and she's talking to the general, that I was like, oh, you know. Then I went back, and I reread it with that in mind, and it created this complexity and this duality that I had to play. And I thought, wow, that's really challenging and just this beautiful dance that Louise gets to do between time and space. And I don't worry about campaigning. Like, the only campaign I'm worried about right now is the presidency. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. So, yeah.
Jeremy, how about you? When you read the script, what was your reaction? At what point did you say, holy, whatever?
I don't know, about the first 10, 15 pages. It's about what I give every script. If it doesn't catch me in the first 10, 15, throw it away. But yeah, then it's good grabbing right away.
All right, well, we have another question back here.
Kerry Roberts, Next Take Super Channel. My question is for Amy. I'm asking this because my father is a professor of linguistics. I know that you worked with a linguist from Montreal.
Yes.
The whole process, what did you learn about communication and the fact that miscommunication, of course, in the past has led to great conflict?
You mean personally, when did I learn it? I mean, I'm still working on that, right? We all are. I mean, communication, as a child we learn, and watching my child learn how to communicate and learning which words to use. Choosing the wrong words is one of the most beautiful things to watch a child do, because you can tell their intent is there, and you know what they mean even if they're not using the right word. And so what this film has helped me remember, and being a mom has helped me remember, that intent is just as important as content. And sometimes in today's media, intent gets lost inside the content. And that's why I think it's so important to have face-to-face communication. And that's what this film reminds me. You do have to look at somebody to communicate effectively with them. And I hope we don't lose that.
Did you talk, there was a linguistics consultant on board. And what sort of preparation did you do in terms of understanding what linguistics and language is all about in that sense?
I had these grand ideas that I was going to know everything about it until I realized that it's actually very scientific and mathematical and anthropological and sociological. And there's a reason that people get doctorates and that it takes that long, because it's very complicated. And what I was grateful to learn was that linguists aren't necessarily proficient in many languages. Some of them very focus on one particular language and become sort of a master of the history of that language. So that sort of freed me up to not feel like I had to sort of be able to convince you all that I could speak everything fluently. It's a difference between understanding a language and speaking a language.
Question back there.
Victoria Ahern with the Canadian Press. Jeremy, I'm wondering your thoughts on working with Denis. I'm right here. What are you? Can you provide your thoughts on working with Denis? What you liked about his directing style, and also why was Montreal the right place to shoot this?
Working with Denis is like anybody that's really good at what they do is pretty easy, flawless. It's collaborative. It's patient. It's thoughtful. He can be seemingly quite shy, but he's really kind of gregarious and funny. He's got a really interesting sense of humor. I love him. And he's just got a lot of attention to his actors. At least I can speak for Amy and I and Forrest and everybody who worked with him. But he also has such great detail, like very Kubrick style of shooting. I think of outside doesn't do 1,000 takes like Kubrick did, but he's got a real great sense of framing and patience with his storytelling with the camera. And I mean, it's just genius and exceeds at that. But also with that, he has an accessibility, I think, in all of his movies, but especially this one. And I think he attributes that to kind of just his relations with his actors and trusts the people that are around him. And it's a really pleasurable, easygoing experience.
David, maybe you can chime in on why, what made Montreal the place to film this?
I thought I totally avoided having to answer a question.
Sorry.
Well, I think Dan and Aaron can speak to that also, but it's always complicated to make a movie that has a lot of breadth and both tons of interiors, obviously, and very specialized interiors, but also incredibly beautiful exteriors, and the region fit that bill, right? And the fact that Denis is from the area and I think has a really a very supportive and incredibly talented group of people around him in Montreal really contributed to the process. And you know, I think it's quite remarkable if you look at the movie and you see the beauty of the movie, and you can identify it if you know Montreal, but you don't have to either. So it turned out incredibly well.
We had this weird thing happen where we scouted everywhere. We looked at, remember, Vancouver, we looked at Atlanta, we looked at, Denis even wanted to try it out in New Mexico. And it was kind of odd because, not that far, but we did look all over Northern America, and it was very important to Denis to have a very different look to it. He didn't want it to feel like, you know, Starman, like in the Southwest. He wanted to go to a different part of New Mexico. And what's odd about this movie is we really thought we were going to shoot in Vancouver, but it was so busy we couldn't find any stages. And then we just all kind of looked at each other, and we ended up exactly where we started, in a circular way, back in Montreal. And the crew base that David was just talking about was fantastic. It was the best possible place for us to shoot this movie. And those people that Denis had worked with and had those well-worn relationships with, Patrice Vermette, his production designer, Renee April, the costume designer, and just some really talented people. And we struggled, as Dan and David could tell you, to find that exterior shot. There's, you know, the big shot out in the clouds and all that. And we found a tiny little place, there, that one, a tiny little town called Saint-Fabien, which is 6-7 hours north of Montreal. Yep. So we found it all in Quebec, and we're really, really pleased and happy.
And we all fell in love with Montreal. We would love to come back and do a film there.
Amy, you're nodding a lot. What was your Montreal experience like?
That's where I'm at today.
What was your Montreal experience like?
No,
Yeah.
I loved Montreal. It was a great place. I brought my family, so it was a great place to have my family for the summer. And it's got a great karaoke bar, which for me, every good
Pang.
pang. I took everybody out. Denis doesn't mean Skyfall, so he's gonna be so mad at me. Anyway.
I dare you to do that invitation.
No. But also, I loved that Denis' family was there, because this film, for me, that was sort of the core, is family, and you know, he had his family on set, and I brought my daughter on set, which I usually don't do, but the set was so calm and so friendly and so familiar that I felt like it was a place that was it felt very welcoming. Yeah.
All right, another question here and then over here.
Hi there, Chad Dunleavy with the Montreal Gazette. You've touched a little bit on working with Denis and what that was like. I'd just like both you, Amy, and Jeremy to talk about your characters, defining your characters, the arc of your characters, and how with Denis you guys fleshed that out, and how he helped you flesh that out and define what these characters were going to be.
Sure. I mean, with Denis, the first meeting I had with him, that there was this intense connection over the character. He felt very passionate about making her just every woman in a way, you know, and very much at the end of the day, he would always say this is a woman's story. Like, no matter what other story we're telling, the core of this has to, from beginning to end, it has to be this story. And that helped ground me, like, when we were doing any of the stuff. I just, you know, when we're doing all the stuff with the aliens and all of this, it doesn't, you know, people are like, do you like it, all this stuff, like, did you research what it's? I was like, no, because she's never been in a room with aliens. Like, she's never been in a suit like this. This is all new. And so just going along and being open to the experience was the key thing. And then but again, Denis he's the genius behind it. He's the person who allowed for this creativity to sort of exist, and he's, like, again, patient, calm, provided us with so much information about what the aliens were going to look like, what we were looking at. He developed this language. Anyway, I could keep going, but it was a great crew, and Denis was amazing as well.
My only main concern approach was to learn the science and mathematics, and physics of it all in a very short amount of time, and what language ultimately to use so people can understand it. I need to understand it so that I can get audience to understand. Like, okay, that was one thing, to understand the language, the binary, and all that sort of things. So I thought, like, well, let's not so much focus on the information. because we want to do it when put people to sleep, you know. So I tried, how do we find a way in with the character? And I thought maybe a sense of humor would work and make him more accessible to people, because you know, a guy like that is, because I had a guy on set with me, and not that he wasn't gregarious or not funny, it was just maybe not the most interesting dude in the room, but like the smartest guy in any room he walks into. I just wanted to find a way into him so people can access him. And then so for people, it also needed to be, again, I can't lean in that direction with her, what happens in the film, but I needed him to have access to people. And I think the sense of humor was the main sort of approach that I wanted to take with it.
Question down here.
Good afternoon, Bruce Kirkland from the Toronto Sun. It's a question probably for the producers, but David, if you want to avoid this, you can. Basically, it's that science fiction is often spoken about as a reflection of the times in which the stories were written and the movies were made. And you can go right back to some of the earliest works, or even something like The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original, as a reflection of the times. I'm curious what you think this particular film, Arrival, is in terms of it being a reflection of our times.
David, you should answer this, David.
I knew this one was coming to me. Well, you know, I think that we all have a pretty specific, not specific, but we all feel that we're living in a moment where communication is unbelievably important, right? And terrible things happen when people don't actually communicate honestly with each other and bring perspective to each other's lives. And I think that one of the beauties of the film, and certainly one of the reasons that all of us got involved, was this notion that people struggling at a very, very heightened moment, struggling to actually communicate, in this case with both each other and the aliens, was something that was also incredibly topical, right? And was a conversation and a dialogue that felt really worthy of having. And so to make a movie that is so entertaining and so emotional, but also has the underpinning of something that's quite relevant to people's lives right now, I think is quite rewarding. And there's no doubt that Denis, as a storyteller and as a filmmaker, right, he brings that sort of unique combination that you don't feel it necessarily. You're not being beaten over the head by it or anything like that, but you absolutely feel it. And I think we all agree that the performances then sort of bring that all together in a really beautiful way. So that's.
Question in the back there, and then over there.
Hi, Jason Gorber from Screen Anarchy and CTV. As actors, you guys read an entire script and then live out the story. Just wondering if you could talk about whether there were unique actorly aspects of this remarkable sci-fi story. The notion that through fragmentation, through each moment, you didn't necessarily know where you were going or where you had come from, and you had an overarching script that was actually driving you. And whether this kind of deep philosophizing was the type of stuff you guys did, or you just had to get the days done, the shoots done, and working with Denis, making sure everything worked.
I understand what you're saying as far as it feeling like a challenge and that there is this, you know, kind of traveling in a non-linear way that my character does. Yeah, I never approach anything with a sort of like, let's just get the day done. Like, it's just not in my nature. I'm very, very meticulous in sort of how I approach things, and Denis is as well. And so we sat down and talked about it before to sort of talk about sort of the journey she's going to take. And for me, what started happening and how I knew I was in character, and this is sort of how I spent the shoot, was anytime I felt nauseous, I knew I was there. Because he's like, I want her to feel off balance. I want her to feel seasick. I want her, like, something's happening and she doesn't know what it is. And yet we can't play the card, you know? So it's a very delicate balance of playing somebody who we believe has had this moment of grief that she shares with the audience. So I have to bring sort of this depth to the character, but at the same time, has it happened yet? Has it not happened yet? When I started really thinking about it, my brain just went straight into like musical theater, to be quite honest. Because when I really think about the science of the film, there's a reason I'm an actress, because my brain just doesn't accept it. But I really loved getting to explore those themes. And yeah, but Denis we did all that work beforehand, so when I got to set, it was just about kind of finding the right sort of, stomach ache to get through the day, so, yes.
Anything to add to that, Jeremy? Now, you guys have worked together before on American Hustle. Did that, having worked together, did that help boost the chemistry when you guys started working on this?
It was a very different hair.
He's like, she looked really good in American
Yeah,
Hustle, and here she like wasn't wearing any makeup. So.
Yeah.
No.
You always look amazing.
No, you're. I didn't mean to give you
well,
that voice.
Amy and I have known each other for a very long time, and then working together on American Hustle, I think we learned what a friendship does in a working environment, about trust and love and ultimate respect. So a lot of freedoms can happen with that. And then in some problem solving we had to do in American Hustle, we learned I learned, or we learned about each other that, we could problem solve together in a different kind of way. And again, with that trust and love and respect that we have for each other, it allows us to be free. And that freedom in artistry is not only important but essential to art. And we were lucky to think and feel in the same sort of, at least, direction, if not the exact same thing, about any obstacle that might come in our way. So it's always a good feeling to be around Amy Adams.
Your side of the coin?
Pardon?
Your side of the coin on that?
No, I feel the same way. I mean, we work very similarly in the fact that, we bring we both do a lot of work outside of set, and when we get there, we're ready to go, and then all of the problem solving is it's not big issues, it's little things and working out blocking, and you get to enrich it as opposed to like getting to figure it out with somebody. One of the things I'm so proud of is very often friendship between a man and woman isn't brought to screen without like a heavy sexual energy, and I love to see that, because really friendship between men and women, and yes, sometimes it leads somewhere, and we don't want to play that hand, but I love the friendship that these two characters developed, because I think any great relationship is based on respect and friendship, and I'm always happy when that gets to be developed on screen.
I'll also tell you this, just with these two right here, not only are they incredibly talented, which you already know, they're incredibly prepared, but they're also two of the best human beings that you can work with. They're incredibly nice, decent people. You don't always have that. We feel very fortunate. I think that's some of the reason that the chemistry works as well.
Jeremy swears a lot.
All right.
Don't.
Question back there.
America, I have a question for Amy and maybe Jeremy too. Your character says there are days that define your story beyond your life. That's what she says. So I wonder, having so many nominations for the Academy Award, how much would define your life to really win it?
I won't have to answer that question anymore, so that will be good. No, I'm being silly. Do you have an answer for that?
I didn't quite really understand it.
Will winning an Academy Award define my life? I don't know, because I haven't won one, so I'll let you know if that ever happens. So far, not winning hasn't defined me, so I feel pretty okay with, more than okay. I feel super grateful and blessed to get to even work in this industry, let alone get to work with people of this caliber. And then on top of it, to receive anything on top of that is it's just beyond. I mean, I'm always grateful for it, but it doesn't define me, no.
Amy, you have an incredible resume of credits for over the years. You have roles that range from Louise Banks to Lois Lane. As you move forward and go from project to project, is there anything that sort of drives you as to what you want to do next?
I think it's changed over the years. I think, being a mom has changed it. I'm really concerned now with where things shoot. Like, during the school year, it's hard to bring my daughter out of Los Angeles. So now I'm like, hey, LA Film Board, like let's get some stuff happening in LA. So that starts to define it a lot for me now, and it's hard to sort of let go of projects just because they don't necessarily work. But that's where I am now, and I'm happy to get to be in that position where I can sort of take some time and make those choices that are best for my family.
One more question down here.
Hi there, up front. Andrea Case, CTV News. I have to go there, Amy, because you opened the door. What's your favorite karaoke song? And secondly, for both of you, how did you unwind? Because this film was so cerebral. Were you able to unwind, or did you just stay in that type of character pretty intense when you were off?
Whiskey.
Also whiskey. How do we unwind?
Well, it's Pang Pang, right?
Pang Pang,
Amy
yeah.
may not tell the story, but when we went with Denis and her to sing karaoke, we all...
So it's not like in front of a lot of people.
So the producers and Denis, we sang initially, and Denis did Skyfall, and we sang a few U2 songs, and we were horrible, like someone stepping on the cat, tail of a cat. So we all went, and then we hear this beautiful angelic voice from the back of the room, and Amy, not even standing up, does "Let It Go" from Frozen, and it sounded, like she brought her own professional equipment. She hadn't. It was the same mic we were using, but after she went, we were all so scared to go.
No, you guys were great.
So we didn't invite him ever.
That's not true. I invited him. I called him at 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke him up. Yeah. But I learned through the process of another film I worked on that was a little bit difficult. I learned how to separate work, and that was really an important lesson for me, and I'm really grateful for it. So now I have a really clear boundary and definition between life and work, and I think it's made my experience of work that much more rich, and hopefully the performances speak to that, because I really view work in such a special way now. It holds a very special place in my heart. Thanks.
Okay. I'm afraid we're out of time. Arrival, as I said before, is a gala presentation of the Toronto International Film Festival. It has its Canadian premiere tonight at 9:30 in Roy Thompson Hall, and it will hit theaters nationwide on November the 11th. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for being here.